All right. Well, it's been certainly a big week for President Biden. He had the State of the Union on Thursday. One of the infamous moments, of course, is when he referred to the man who's now been charged with the murder of Laken Riley as an illegal. He was immediately caught with some criticism from his own party. The NBC article came out saying that it was disappointing that he referred to him as illegal. But as he tends to do, Biden immediately kind of caved to the Democratic Party, and he has recently, as of today, he's now apologized for using the term illegal. Take a listen.
An undocumented person, and I shouldn't have used illegal. I should have, it's undocumented. I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect.
So you regret using that word?
Yes.
You know, Guy, it's interesting. Democrats really seem to have a hard time calling people who do illegal activity illegal. Why is that?
Well, I think that this president is in the grip of a hardcore constituency on his far left. He lives in fear of them. He is paralyzed by them. Many people in the media fall into that camp, sort of the left wing of the Democratic Party base. It's many journalists. And I just want to review. The man who allegedly killed Laken Riley entered this country illegally. He then committed and was arrested for multiple illegal acts in 2 different states, culminating in a murder in which he brutalized and bludgeoned her skull with such force that she was disfigured. If you have not earned the word illegal at that point, what is the point of that word even existing? And I think it is such a striking juxtaposition to see President Trump meeting today with the family of Laken Riley, whereas Joe Biden, during the State of the Union, had to be heckled into even mentioning her name, which he then got wrong, and now he's apologizing for mislabeling her alleged murderer. That is really quite a contrast.
Well, Tom, isn't that, can you even imagine in this same subject, yet he referred to the murder, the accused murderer as an illegal, while misspeaking the woman, the victim's name, Laken Riley. He called her Lincoln Riley, and he doubled down. He called her Lincoln twice, and yet he is not apologizing for that. In fact, President Trump is coming out and calling out Biden for mispronouncing her name. Take a listen.
He got the name wrong, Lincoln, and when he asked, what about all the legal citizens who kill people? In other words, making excuses, that Joe Biden went on television and apologized for calling Laken's murderer an illegal. He didn't want to call him illegal. He apologized.
Tom, what are your thoughts?
And it looks like he's meeting with the family. He's obviously using them in the rally. He's going to take advantage of this thing, and he should, because, it was obviously embarrassing to watch him do that, the president, but it was embarrassing politically as well. When you look at it, you think, like you said, Guy, he's afraid of the people on the left, but why? Why is he so afraid of these people? They're still going to vote for him. And you have so many people in this country, they're starting to realize the absolute horror that's happening, not just on the border, but everywhere in the country, because we have this flood of illegals coming into the country. And then they went ahead and they planned this improvisational moment with him. He had that little button ready, because when he started getting heckled there, he pulled out the button and then he went into his thing and he said, he was killed by an illegal. He improvised the illegal word there. So he wouldn't have done it if he was
He wasn't
on script.
looking at the teleprompter. He was off script.
Yeah, but it shows you that the people on the left, the people in the press who are going after this, they're just as politically clueless as the president is. Where most people are is, even if there wasn't a murder, we're just talking of the issue of immigration and the idea that you're talking about being I want to be respectful of all these people who are coming across the border. People have had it. Take the murder off the table and it's an embarrassing situation.
Well, Anita, what's your take?
Well, to Tom's point, I think the press is asking questions in a politically motivated way. Today, the president responded to the MSNBC anchor. I think it was yesterday, a reporter from Reuters had an opportunity to get a few seconds in with the president to ask a question. And that's the same question that reporter asked. Do you regret calling this person an illegal? Imagine, that person could have asked, what policies can you now put in place to prevent another Jose Antonio Ibarra from coming into the country? If you're reelected, how are you going to change policy at the border? These reporters have an opportunity to ask substantive questions, but they're asking politically motivated questions.
Well, and there was a lot of talk the last 48 hours saying that the president did incredible for the State of the Union. Yet, Guy, it seems Washington Post is calling out the fact that early polling doesn't necessarily meet up with the hype.
Yeah, the CNN poll showed it was his worst performance in terms of the audience that was watching, saying they had a favorable or unfavorable view of his words in his 4 years. It's the worst one he's had so far. And it's usually a self-selecting group. Generally, fans of the president are going to tune in, as opposed to people who hate the president who are going to bother to do something else that night. Can I just make one other point about rhetoric and words that are used? Undocumented, the president said. I should have said undocumented. That is not an accurate term for many illegal immigrants. This accused murderer was paroled under Biden policy into this country. Many of them are given documents, show up to court in 8 years or whatever it's going to be. They actually are documented, but they are here illegally, having crossed the border illegally. The word illegal means something, and it applies here. And they want us to say undocumented, which is inaccurate in a number of cases, or I guess we saw from the White House last week, newcomers. That's their other euphemism that they've started.
We'll call it what they are. They're still illegally crossing the border and coming in and using a lot of resources that we don't have right now. So they need to figure out the border, which is why that's going to be a big issue with the election coming up. I will say that the president should have a little bit more compassion for the victim's family who's been murdered than for the Democrats who are offended by the term that he used for the accused murderer.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.